All right, so we are live. Good evening, everybody. I am yours truly, Dr. Pierre, your favorite board-certified internist, host of Real Physician Reacts. If this is your first time catching me live, we are a weekly live show where I just get a video from social media and I give my personal reactions to it. Unfortunately, because of the flavor of the month, year has been COVID. A lot of our videos have been COVID related. And unfortunately, this kind of falls right in line with those videos. So today I am going to be talking, and again, I don't know why. I'm from the state of Florida. I have no clue why the state of Florida always happens to be the example, right? Like we just can't seem to get out of our own way in regards to some of this. I say silly stuff. I don't want to say silly stuff. Yeah, I'll say silly stuff. Some of the silly stuff that we do. All right. So I am going to be talking about Kevin Stillwagon, who is a chiropractor out of Orange County, who decided to take it upon himself to invade another school board meeting. Again, first of all, before we get into the video, I want to say to all of the school board members across the country, I apologize that your meetings have now been hijacked by the Kevin Stillwagons, the Dr. Dan Stocks, the Dr. Sean Brooks of the world across the country. Like, I'm pretty sure before COVID, you would probably have a paltry level of attendance at these school board meetings. And unfortunately, now because of COVID, they keep finding a way to go to you guys' meeting and really hijack it and get much more publicity than you probably ever would have wanted during a school board meeting. So we are going to be talking about, again, Dr. Kevin Stillwagon, who is a chiropractor, who took it upon himself to, again, unleash about 3 minutes of, again, pretty stereotypical lies from the anti-vaxxer movement, to the point where if you close your eyes, you wouldn't know if this was Kevin Stillwagon, Sean Brooks, Dan Stock. You wouldn't even know, because they're saying the same things over and over and over again. It's almost as if they have a script that they're all reading from. And, someone or some message board says, hey, go to your local school board meeting with these scripts in hand, say these catchphrases, and you're going to wow them, right? So again, we are going to put Dr. Kevin Stillwagon on blast, like we like to do here on our episode of Real Physician Reacts, and really hopefully educate you guys so you can understand what I would have wished someone would have done while they're listening to this guy, again, spill lie after lie after lie. So let's get into it. You know how we like to do. Let's go ahead and share this video here. Let's get it started, guys.
My name is Dr. Kevin Stillwagon. I am a property owner and a taxpayer in Orange County.
Again, pretty typical approach where they try to assert some level of authority by noting that he's a property owner and a taxpayer, just like everyone else are taxpayers. But again, this is how they typically do to try to kind of establish that level of like, hey, like you need to listen to me. 1, because I'm a doctor. 2, because I'm a property owner. 3, because I pay my taxes, right? So again, so you can kind of already see exactly where this is headed, unfortunately.
You are making some really bad decisions based on fear of a virus.
So again, we already kind of start the drumming that decisions that are being made across the country, really across the world, but more importantly, across the country, are not being made out of a level of facts on top of facts, not being made on the fact that we have 715,000 people dead from a virus in a year and a half. No, that's not the reason why we're making these decisions. We're making these decisions based on some level of fear that, fortunately for us, Mr. Stillwagon is going to educate us on why we shouldn't be as fearful. So let's listen to Mr. Stillwagon.
That has about a 99% survival rate for most of us.
So again, and I love this, right? Because, and that's why I mentioned 715,000 people have died. And when I hear people try to pair it, first of all, like in our country, that number is about 1.6, 1.7%. Worldwide is about 2%. So you hear it like, oh, that's such a small number. So, and this is where, facts, right? If you're not putting it into context, can throw you off, right? So you hear 99% and you think like, oh, wow, 99%, I'm good. But once I tell you that 715,000 people died in 1.5 years, all of a sudden that 1%, you realize the magnitude. I just released a podcast episode this week where I kind of gave an update on some of our numbers and really understanding that we need to stop mentioning it in terms of percentages, because that's what they do, right? Those on the other side. They mention it in terms of percentage as if the percentage means nothing. And more importantly, especially when we talk about the fact that, yes, only 7, because that's what they're saying, only 715,000 people died. What are you worried about it? It does not take into account the amount of people who got sick, right, who are still dealing with illness. It doesn't take account for the COVID long haulers, which will be an issue that we are going to have to deal with in our lifetime. People are going to be on disability because of COVID. People are on chronic oxygen because of COVID. People have trachs because, they didn't die, but they have trachs, they have pegs because of COVID. Now, these people's lives are forever changed. But again, if you listen to the Kevin Stillwagons of the world, because they didn't die, and because it's only a small percentage of them, we shouldn't be worried about it. So again, be very, very, especially once they start hitting you with percentages. Like once you start listening to what the whole number means, it definitely carries a lot more weight.
That is unsubstantiated fear.
Nope, I would think that is a very substantiated fear if that many people have died in 1.5 years. If you included the number of people who died from the flu in the past decade, would not include 715,000.
So let me give you a couple of things to truly be fearful about. That mask that you keep insisting that people wear decreases the amount of oxygen in your lung tissue.
So again, we have gone through this. We've been talking about this, trope for about 1 year and some change now. This onus that the mask is somehow decreasing your level of oxygen and suffocating you and causing you to be hypoxic. Study after study has proven this to be false. But again, anti-vaxxer after anti-vaxxer after anti-vaxxer continues to try to reinsert this as if they're saying something true. So of course, we're already starting off on the fact that he's lying, right? No, masks do not decrease your oxygen. Where again, as a physician, I may wear a mask, sometimes 4 to 6 hours at a time in a row. I don't even think about it. It doesn't even cross my mind that I'm still wearing the mask sometimes, which is when I'm going home. So no, this is patently false. But again, this is pretty on point with that side.
We now know that this virus uses something called a furin cleavage site to merge with your lung tissue to infect you.
So again, when we talk about our research, especially associated with COVID, some of the biggest questions that we're still trying to figure out is, why does COVID affect some people versus affecting others? There's actually a study in the Nature magazine that noted that this furin cleavage site that he mentioned noted in ferrets. They looked at ferrets and they saw if you had this COVID virus, right, this cleavage site was present. Now, when they started looking at the human related trials, it wasn't a one-to-one thing. Like every person who had COVID had this furin cleavage site. That wasn't a one-to-one issue. So it wasn't a guarantee that just because you got sick from COVID, that it was due to this aspect of this cleavage site that he mentioned. But again, it was noted that in the SARS-CoV virus, that this is a component that they're looking at, especially from a research standpoint. Because again, we're only 1.5 years, so we're still learning about this virus.
And it works better with decreased oxygen. And peer-reviewed research clearly shows that wearing a mask increases your chances of developing an upper respiratory infection
So let's think about that, right? Hey, what Mr. Stillwagon, right, wants us to believe that wearing a mask increases your risk for getting an infection. Now let's think of one example. Let's think of the flu. The flu, which typically affects about 40 plus million per year prior to COVID. And once COVID came around, and once all of the restrictions that were needed in terms of hand washing, in terms of wearing your mask, in terms of socially distancing, once those were enacted, all of a sudden, what used to occur about 40 million times a year has now occurred, last she checked, less than 2,000 times, right? And this is just from wearing the mask, just wearing the mask. So if we are to believe that for some reason this a cloth mask can not only decrease your oxygen, if we're following his train of thought, you have a cloth mask that can decrease your oxygen, but somehow, some way, make you much more susceptible to respiratory viruses, which we already know is patently false.
13 times more than a person not wearing a mask.
That's false.
So I would stop wearing a mask immediately.
Keep wearing your mask, everybody.
If I were you.
Keep wearing your mask. Those into the
Secondly, this shot that you insist on people getting gives you absolutely no protection against infection.
So let's think about that, right? Again, let's pick a shot. Let's pick Johnson & Johnson. Let's pick Moderna. Let's pick Pfizer. What he's saying that getting vaccinated from this shot gives you no protection against the virus. We already know that's patently false. Why do we know that's patently false? Because the people who are sitting in hospitals across the country, majority, and by majority, I'm not talking 51-49, I'm talking 95-5 are unvaccinated. So to say that the vaccine gives you no protection, again, kind of follows along the same line of thinking that the anti-vaxxers, the Dr. Stan Stocks, the Dr. Stillwagons, the Dr. Sean Brooks of the world, that they want you to believe. And again, they're all reading from the same script. So that, and when people, I talked to, because I was on TikTok, and someone asked me, like, how am I able to fend against myself against all of these anti-vaxxers? That was the question. And I answered, I said, well, it's actually not very difficult because they're all reading from the same playbook. So literally, once you're able to defend yourself against one, you can defend yourself against the hundreds of them because they don't give anything original. There's no original thought that comes from that side. So that's why it's so easy, right, for me to do a video like this, because like I could have done this on the fly, right? Because I've already answered these questions in subsequent videos beforehand. But again, because they invade these school board meetings, again, shout out to the school board members who have to deal with this, unfortunately. Because they invade these school board meetings, you're going to have people who don't understand, who don't know, who aren't aware, who aren't informed, and they start eating and gobbling it up. Why? Because he came in here saying, hey, I'm a doctor, I'm a property owner, I'm a taxpayer, and this is why this is why you should listen to me. And not only the fact that obviously him being white male definitely adds to that trope of like, superiority, amongst himself.
It is the innate immune system that protects you from infection by using dendritic cells, T cells, and natural killer cells without antibodies ever becoming involved.
Now, so again, he kind of mentions, again, a lot of more, scientific, clinical immunology related things. We know that for your natural, especially for your natural killer cells, which one of the last things he mentioned, for those to be enacted, you have to be infected first. And this is my trope against this aspect of like natural immunity. I have natural immunity. No one has natural immunity until you're actually infected. And then, right, these cells, like the natural killer cells and those, this is when they kind of wake up. They try to fight an infection. But why would you, this is what I say, why would you want to experience the disease and then hope that your body is strong enough to fight it? Like, why would you want to do that? It makes no sense in the world. Wouldn't you rather have the playbook beforehand so that when that foreign, body comes around, that foreign visitor comes around, you recognize, like, hold on, you're not supposed to be here. let me get you out of here now. Wouldn't you rather have that? No. Like their train of thought is get the infection, hope that the infection doesn't overwhelm me. Again, like I said, over 95% of folks sitting in the hospital right now are unvaccinated who had that same process of mind, and hope that I'm not one of the majority of people sitting in this hospital to this day, right? So again, this is unfortunately kind of the same trope, right? The same thing, like natural immunity. Oh, natural immunity is better than this, so-called vaccine out here, which we know is false.
This shot has one goal, and that goal is to make antibodies. These antibodies circulate inside of you and cannot prevent an infection.
Again, that's false as well, right? We know that those who are vaccinated, not only does it help fight the infection, but it helps fight the viral load that's in you, right? Let's kind of fast forward to what the Delta variant has done. What the Delta variant has done, especially because I always get if you're vaccinated, like, how are you still getting sick, right? One, remember, the goal of the vaccine was never to prevent you from ever getting COVID. That was never, ever the goal. One, because that's impossible. If you look at the studies right from the beginning, they never had 100% of the people did not get infected. That was never the case. It's always severe illness, hospitalizations. What medication can do that? And if you look at the hospitals across the country and you look at the fact that over 95% of the folks in the hospitals right now are unvaccinated, clearly the vaccine is doing a good job, right? And because we know it's not 100%, we're not shocked. We're not surprised when that 5% gets in and the hospital gets immune, because the Delta variant has much more significant viral loads, which means it has a much more opportunity to overwhelm your body, which we told y'all that would occur. We told y'all variants are going to eventually occur that are going to be much stronger than I like to call the OG virus, right? Much stronger than the original. And now here we are when you have this wave, like nobody, especially in the healthcare field, is shocked or surprised. But now you have anti-vaxxers like this guy right here, Sean Brooks, what's the other one? Dan Stock. You have them here talking as if there's some gotcha moment. Like, oh, look, I told you, look, like even the vaccinated folks are getting sick, which we know is, makes absolutely no sense in the world.
They can only react to something that has already gotten inside of you. They cannot keep something out.
Again, I'm not even sure what he's referencing as far as keeping something out. The goal of the vaccine, again, is to significantly reduce your chance of severe illness, hospitalizations. That's their goal. That's their job. I'm not going to judge a fish by how well a fish climbs a tree. That would make no sense in the world. So we don't judge these vaccines off jobs that you want the vaccines to do. Oh, the vaccine didn't 100% protect me from getting COVID, so the vaccine must not work. First of all, again, the vaccine job was never to 100% protect you from getting COVID. And once you know that, like everything else, like is smooth sailing from there.
The shot decreases the ability of your innate immune system to keep viruses out by 60%.
Again, that just and you see this a lot with that side where they will say a statement, say a random number, right? And like say, oh my God, 60%. Like that's crazy. First of all, that's false, right? That is also false. No, this shot does not decrease your body's ability to fight innate infections. Again, he keeps going to innate infection because he's kind of referencing if you happen to get the virus some other way, like the shot actually makes you weaker, which we know that is not the case. Again, I think Sean Brooks brought this up, right, when they kind of mentioned this kind of antibody mediated reaction to a vaccine, right? Which is as false, doesn't happen in humans. And again, regardless of how often they say it, it's not going to happen now.
And a booster shot will reduce it even more.
So again, like not only will the initial shot, right, decrease your immune system, but getting a booster. So again, now he's trying to tell you, like, guys, don't get the booster, don't get the regular shot. Like your immune system is going to be weaker for it, which again, patently false. He knows it's patently false. So this is why we talk about the difference between misinformation and disinformation, because I have to believe this chiropractor knows that what he's saying is false. I have to believe that. I can't believe that somehow this chiropractor doesn't know that what he's saying is not true. I just cannot believe it. All right. And because I cannot believe it, we put him under the disinformation category, a person who is purposely spreading false information. And he's hoping, right, like that he can go to the school board meeting and he's hoping he could sway one or two people. But the problem is, once he sways that one or two people, if they get sick and they get ill, right, they have no one left to blame except this guy right here, right, who's going to be long gone.
Even worse, the antibodies that are created by this shot can no longer neutralize variants and actually enhance the virus ability to infect you.
Again, he just kind of flipped what he said. First of all, he said that getting the vaccine or the booster will decrease your immunity. Now he's saying that getting the vaccine or the booster not only will decrease your immunity, but will also make the virus stronger when it comes around. Again, both issues false. And this is one of those things where, as a physician, right, we have to fight against this, unfortunately, right? So he's able to say these false statements, right? And if you don't have someone like me or a lot of my other colleagues come on here and say, like, no, this chiropractor is lying, right? He's not saying the truth. You may actually believe that it's true. But fortunately, you're watching the Real Physician Reacts, right? And you know, like after watching this, like, you know that this guy is just selling us a hill of beans that we're not going to buy.
It should be painfully obvious to you by now.
It is painfully obvious.
Vaccinated people are getting sick.
So again, guys, I don't, when people, like, for example, if someone told you right now the sky is pink, right? And you actually had to be on the other side arguing that the sky is not pink. This is what's happening, right? So here we have, again, a chiropractor who is saying that it's clearly obvious that those who are vaccinated are the ones getting sick. But when I look in the hospitals, and we would look at hospitals all across the country, it's clearly obvious that the ones who are sick are unvaccinated, right? So for us, we see that the sky is blue. He's saying that the sky is pink, right? And now I have to defend that the sky is not pink, right? Like, even though everyone across the country, across the world can clearly tell you that the sky is blue, but because he says the sky is pink and he says it so confidently, and he's a taxpayer, right? And he's a property owner, like, this is someone we should believe in, right? Like, just it is so sad, the level of disinformation that goes on with these guys here.
And this will continue to get worse if you keep trying to jab people.
Jab. Again, this jab is actually a term out of Britain, right? And it's not used in the negative sense that it's used over here. So jab refers to as a shot, like flu jab, right? Like, COVID jab, right? It's they use it interchangeably over there. But unfortunately, we here in the United States have taken it as this negative connotation. So like, oh my God, can you believe they're going to give you the jab? Are you going to let them give you the jab? Why would you take the jab? And I mentioned this on this week's podcast that Merck is actually working on a pill form. So I don't know what they're actually going to refer to Merck, right? When we talk about, like, because it's not going to be a jab, it's going to be a pill. So I don't know if there's going to be like some funny name that the anti-vaxxer group comes up with once Merck's pill form comes about. And again, Merck's prelim studies show that a 50% reduction in severe illness and hospitalization. Absolutely amazing, right? So I don't know what's going to be that term, but like in the Britain, jab means shot. Jab is not a bad thing. Over here, especially in the anti-vaxxer movement, jab is this terrible thing that, we should be worried about, and we don't know what's in the jab. We should be worried about the jab. Like, that's what we're dealing with here, unfortunately, in this country.
While a virus is trying to spread, the variants are emerging from the vaccinated population.
So again, this is something I've talked about in the past as well too, right? For you to understand how variants occur, right? Like it's again, we're not going to go all science and chemistry wise. Like, let's just think about it. For a variant to occur, a virus has to continue to replicate, which means it has to continue to produce. We already know that viruses are continuing to reproduce in the unvaccinated side, which means if the unvaccinated side is allowing this virus to continue to reproduce, the unvaccinated side are allowing the variants, right, to continue to reproduce. So when you hear, again, this guy tell you that the sky is pink, you have to say, no, this is BS, because we know the sky is blue, right? So we know that for a variant to occur, a virus needs to go through multiple levels of replication. We know across the country, multiple levels of replication are not happening in the vaccinated, because if that was the case, they'd be sitting in the hospital. They're not sitting in the hospital. They're at home. They're watching this, right? The unvaccinated are in the hospitals, hoping that they can get home and watch this, right? Like, this is what, again, we have to be very diligent, and we have to be as confident, right? And again, like I said, unfortunately, where he's at a school board meeting. I'm almost sure, like I've never attended. Maybe I should start going to these school board meetings, right? Because just in case someone, I'm in Palm Beach County, just in case someone crazy like gets up there and starts talking crazy, so I can be like, hey, I'm sorry, that's BS, right? Like, maybe I should start doing that. But they pretty much know the type of people who are going to these school board meetings are likely not going to be the type of people who understand that all he's been saying is BS for like the past 2+ minutes.
This so-called vaccine is still being administered on what's called an emergency use authorization.
I kind of mentioned this as well on this week's podcast, episode 194. I'll put a link in the descriptions. The Pfizer, right? Because right now Pfizer is the only vaccine that got the FDA approval at this time. By December, Moderna will get it because their application's already in. Neither here nor there. But when he talks about it, and you'll see, right? So I want to give you guys some preference, right? He's going to be talking about the brand name for the Pfizer vaccine. And somehow he's going to try to make some correlation that the FDA approved some application on a piece of paper for this brand name medication, but did not approve the actual medication, right? That's the connection. That is the connection he is about to make. So again, just sit back. But understand, when he mentions this Carminati, it is the actual brand name for the Pfizer vaccine. And remember what I mentioned, like the Pfizer vaccine is FDA approved 16 and up. 16 and up. If you are 12 to 15, it is still under emergency use authorization. Now remember, it is not a different medication. It's the same medication. Right. But like legally, I can't tell you if you're 12 years old, I'm giving you an FDA approved drug. I can only tell you I'm giving you a drug under emergency use authorization. But if you're 17, I can tell you that you're getting an FDA approved drug because legally you are getting an FDA approved drug. So it's more about the terminology. It is not about the formulation. The formulation is the same exact thing. Right. There's no like, oh, they get a little bit of sprinkle here and they get a less sprinkle there. Not the case whatsoever.
It is not FDA approved.
False.
The FDA approved a biological licensing application for a product called Comirnaty.
The Pfizer vaccine.
The application was approved, not the product. Comirnaty is not available in the United States.
False again.
Therefore, by law, you cannot force people to take this drug without informed consent.
All vaccines are given under informed consent. No one is being held against their will to get this vaccine. I know, depending, especially when you're watching this, right? We had a basketball player who's decided he's not getting the vaccine, and it's causing like this crazy big uproar. I have no clue because it's not like he's like a medical specialist, a health specialist. He's a basketball player, and he made a decision. But unfortunately, because of the way society works, he has this social clout that has allowed his message to go out and spread, right? And people are asking me like, "Hey, is Kyrie right? Is Kyrie right?" No, he's not, right? So let's end that there. But here again, you have a guy who's screaming that the sky is pink when we all know the sky is blue, right? And because we all know the sky is blue, this is what we have to face and deal with at a time and time again. Now, fortunately for you guys, right, because I've dealt with the Stillwagons, Sean Brooks, Dan Stocks, and all of the others so often. I don't even like, it doesn't even cause any, like, because they're not saying anything different. They're not saying anything new. They're sprinkling statements. They're adding a random percentage and they're hoping to overwhelm you. But again, as long as you stay informed, making sure you're getting the right information, you're never going to have to worry about the Stillwagons of the world because you will not be led astray.
And without animal trials to prove that it is safe.
And again, this is one of the things I mentioned. I have a podcast episode because I actually had a friend of mine reach out to me because he had questions on how did we get the vaccine so fast, right? That was a question that he had. So I made a podcast episode that detailed how did we get the vaccine step by step by step. Let me assure you, there wasn't a single step that was skipped to get the vaccine. Not a single one. Not at all. I will put the link to that podcast episode as well in the comments or description somewhere. So you can guys will be able to kind of listen to yourself. But like, no, so you don't have to worry. Like, yes, we had animal trials. Yes, we had all of the safety trials. We went through every single step that we normally get for any other medication. Like this notion that for this specific vaccine during this pandemic, that we somehow skip steps to try to rush out a product is blatantly false. Again, it's again like they're screaming that the sky is pink. We know the sky is not pink, but it's blatantly false. But unfortunately, because they say it with such confidence and such a stature, we have to actually believe and we actually have to fight it. But that's okay. That's what people like me are here for. To battle against the mess.
Mayor Demings, please look at me.
Ooh.
You, sir, are in violation of the United States Constitution.
False.
And the Nuremberg Code.
See, there we go. Right. Again, this is unfortunately, this is not a big joker because the anti-vaxxers really believe like we are committing some type of war crime, like recommending the vaccine. They really believe that. And again, I know it, again, if you're an anti-vaxxer, like if you have a copy of the script that y'all use, like send that to me, drop it in the comments. I'd like to see it, right? Like maybe you don't want me to see it because you want me to fight against it or whatever, but whatever, right? It's right online. In fact, we had that, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago, we had that one person who pretends he's like a cop. He kind of mentioned this Nuremberg Code and war crimes and blah, 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 blah. Like, again, one of these big buzzwords that they try to say to really try to make you feel small. Like, oh my God, am I really doing something wrong? Like by requesting mandates, requesting them to wear, enforcing masks. Am I really doing something wrong? But let me assure you, you are not. And no, it's not against any war crime. No, there's nothing you have to worry about. No one's going to take you to trial for enforcing the mask. And this is what they do. That's why they always drop a Nuremberg Code or a war crime or a constitution, especially for counties that have mask mandates, because that's what, that's their drive there.
You will be held accountable.
They won't.
Good day.
So fortunately, we were able to get through another school board meeting. Again, like I keep saying it, man, God bless the school board members, the parents who have to deal with anti-vaxxers invading a space that you would have never saw them in 2 years ago. They would have never came to a school board meeting. They would have never gave, any hint. They wouldn't be there to volunteer. They wouldn't be there to vote. None of that. But because of this COVID pandemic, because they're on these groups and these messaging boards and they have their scripts, they're invading you guys' privacy. So again, I apologize for that. Again, I'm pretty sure by the time this is said and done, I'll probably have to do more videos on more school board meetings. I think this is like our second or third one, because they just know. And unfortunately, every time they do one, like it goes viral. Every time they do it and they invade a school board meeting, it tends to go viral. And you need people like me to be able to say, like, no, what they're saying is BS, right? That's what it is. What they're saying is BS. So, just think about it. Right now, FDA approval, Pfizer vaccine, emergency use authorization for 12 to 15 for the Pfizer vaccine, as well as the Moderna, as well as the Johnson & Johnson. The Moderna vaccine will get FDA approval likely by December because all their application is fully in. Johnson & Johnson hasn't turned their application in yet, so I wouldn't expect them to be FDA approved this year, but I would expect them to get the emergency use authorization for their booster because their booster did show some promising results, almost about 94% risk reduction. So everything is going in the right direction. I know you guys want to get past this pandemic sooner than later. I know you guys want to get back to a level of normalcy and, not have to worry about, hearing, NBA players and, rappers and R&B artists and all these other random rock stars and all these other random people say nothing but BS, right? That causes you to think like, all right, am I making the right decision? But understand, you have lots of people on this side, right? You have lots of people on this side ready and willing, right, to fight for you and, educate as much as we can. Like always, make sure, I'm not sure because I'm broadcasting on a whole bunch of spots. So make sure you like, make sure you share, this video out. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast. Like I said, I do a lot of education on the podcast as well. Subscribe if you're on my YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. We do videos twice a week. We do this every Thursday evenings. So you guys be blessed. And I'm going to see you guys next week for another edition of Real Physician Reacts.